Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Like tonight's film, 1980's Bear Behind Bars. 1980's Bear Behind Bars. This was put out by Blue Underground in 2010. They put this out on DVD. This is the back of the DVD. There is a trailer on here. It's a special feature and a beautiful transfer. This is 1980's Bear Behind Bars, put out by Blue Underground, right here, folks. This is a film, this is a women in prison film, and it says in the front as a tagline, "Behind bars, no one can hear you scream." And there's a quote on here from efilmcritic.com that says, "Chicks in prison flick that will make you need a shower." This is from 1980. It's 95 minutes long, and it's not rated, with a warning of graphic sexuality. So let's get into this film right here, Bear Behind Bars, 1980, and this is essentially as part of the women in prison genre. That is a women in prison film that deals with, of course, you have a warden and you have some tension with the warden and her co-worker. You have a very sexual and inexperienced and weird and funny and crazy nurse. We have a kind of a frustrated fat cook, and we have visitors that come and bring supplies, and we have a set of three girls in particular that are planning an escape, and these three inmates and their sexual connections, and with the guards that work there, including the warden, and how that connects to their possible freedom. And is their freedom actually free? This is a women in prison film that is a women in prison film of location. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more. But as it's called, Bear Behind Bars, this is a film that is not only behind bars, but focuses on locations as a character. As people say, it's all about location, location, location. Well, Bear Behind Bars uses that as a core. Here it is, folks. Let's get into this film. First and foremost, let's talk about the music for Bear Behind Bars. The music has a strong jazz bass, but a jazz bass that almost reminds me of the Pink Panther cartoon era. Sultry, smoky. You could hear it in kind of like some smoky bar in the city, in the outskirts of, or right in the, kind of it's right in the city, late at night, after hours bar. You can't even see the stage because it's so filled with smoke. Real sultry jazz. We also have some very, we have some dark cues in here as well, some weird atmospheric cues that are very interestingly placed. We also have experimental avant-garde jazz in this particular film as well that almost borders acid jazz. And since this film, it looks like was filmed in Brazil, we also have Brazilian carnival music in this film. So this is a film that has a lot of music, I would say, almost wall-to-wall music in the film, and the music can sometimes be off-putting with what is happening on the screen, as the music, for the most part, minus a few cues and sections here and there, stays very jazzy and light, and not the kind of music you would hear in a women in prison film with disturbing qualities. But we also have very sexual qualities in this film, and this is, while it's a women in prison film of location, this would also be an X-rated women in prison film for a few sections of the film, one section in particular. So let's get into the style, cinematography, and as I mentioned before, location, 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 and the characters. Very interesting editing style in this film. It is very, very abrupt and is laced, and the style is cutting. That is the style. It is laced with cuts, and the style is cutting. Sometimes fast cuts, not staying on a scene for too long until it cuts to another. Something else happening simultaneously, or the outside of the building, or the outside of the home, or, you know, and then going back to that shot. You don't stay on a shot in this film for too long, and there's lots of cuts. Before the opening title sequence, we have rather jarring cuts and, kind of scattered throughout, and it becomes the style of the film, and it becomes the story of the film. It's the way the story is being told, it's the way the film is being moved. We also have some very interesting fades in this film, and in one section of the film, it is all blurry fades using focus, and it's only in really one section of the film where consistently is used. Very interesting. We also have a few zooms in the film. A few zooms. I didn't see any reverse zooms per se, but mostly just regular zooms, forward zooms in the film. Now, this is a very interesting and a very unique women in prison film for a few reasons. First, it does not just stay in the prison. It does not just stay behind bars, as the title says. We're also in the hallways of the prison, where when all the cell bars are open, they almost clash with each other. We're in the shower. We're out in the courtyard, which has no covering from the sunlight. We also go to a beach and a boat for a side story in the film that reminded me a lot of some of the story of the film that I reviewed in this YouTube page called Lust for Freedom. You can look that up. It almost had some elements with that storyline, that women in prison storyline. We also make our way to the city of Brazil and the Carnival and the warden's room and the nurse's room, the individual cells, of course, and various people's homes. As the movie goes on, there are a lot of locations. I've never seen so many locations in a woman in prison film before. And those locations have various characters. A jealous lover, a mother, a crazy nurse that loves pudding, that loves her nurse hat. This is a film that has a lot of darkness in it. It has a lot of extremely disturbing scenes, but also some very graphically sexual scenes, hardcore scenes in here that are all real. These are not inserts that you see. But at the same time, there's even some lightheartedness, some dark humor, some black comedy, predominantly with the nurse. And some very, all the different characters. The warden is a very, very unique character. There's tension with the warden and her assistant, and she's also has a vibe and a presence. But the warden really has a vibe and a presence, and it's not the typical warden that you're seeing in a women in prison film at all. This is a film that has a sheen to it, a glossy sheen to it. And what I mean by that is it's very professionally shot, very seriously done. Even the black humor of the nurse, it was very seriously shot, very seriously done. Bear behind bars. For the sleaze and the violence and the disturbing nature of this film, it is very, very professionally done and very seriously done. Like the art of it, the art of a women in prison film. I mean, in many respects, this film is wall to wall women in prison, at least for about 90% of the film. You're getting all of the checklists of a women in prison film, and it's back to back. There's a very high energy level in this film, particularly 90% of the film inside of the prison. Very high energy level in this film. there's constantly hitting and screaming and humping and sexual activity and moaning and yelling and hitting and hitting and hitting. This is a very violent film in that regards, and it is also a very gory and disturbingly violent film as well, which will come a little bit later in the film. There are some things that happen in this movie involving genitalia. There are some things happening in this film involving a drowning, and the drowning of innocence, and the drowning of vulnerability, and rape, and slaughter, and home invasion. I mean, and even the sexual assault of a child. I mean, this is some really crazy stuff. Now, sexually in this film, we have full nudity for men and women, and we have simulated sex scenes. We have, you know, tons of lesbian simulated sex scenes, it seems, and very sexual scenes, you know, we're focusing on the body parts, the knees, the feet, the legs, lots of tons and tons of nudity. But at the same time, we also have some real sex in this film, some hardcore heterosexual face sitting and 69ing and blowjobs and all of this. But really, the bulk of that would be near the end of the film, where it really blasts you in your face with a heightened sexuality. It is flirted with throughout the film, in pieces, really in pieces. There's even insertions, real intercourse, insertions of objects, dildos. Dildos are passed around. There's an interesting message board inside of this prison. But while I say, and this is what makes this film very, very unique sexually, while I say that there is real sex in this film, it's only a few sequences. It's only a couple sequences amidst this massive nudity and simulated sex. And some pretty disturbing sequences. There's washing of their vaginas. The film is filthy, dirty, muddy, ugh, gross. There's real masturbation from women. There's tons of lesbianism, and there's this just dirty, sleazy, grimy, muddy, black dirt vibe to this film. There's even a shower room that almost takes on a surreal quality. There's a courtyard scene involving the sun that takes on a surreal quality that almost reminded me of Stanley Kubrick's 2001: Space Odyssey. And there is this element of the film makes it so unique that it is not, full blown an X-rated film, but it could have been an NC-17. It could have been just a softcore women in prison film. And then all of a sudden, there's a couple sequences of real hardcore sex in here. That's not, really, really hardcore and insanity, but it's still real. Actually, the women are sexually attractive, and there is some very sexual erotic sequences in this film, definitely, even with the real sex. This is a really diverse and crazy and sucker punch of a film. You even get some real Brazil Carnival footage as well, but it's not stock footage. The characters are in that footage with dancing. This is 1980s Bear Behind Bars. What a mind F of a women in prison film this is. Thank you so much for watching the Tenru Bizarre YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more, like Bear Behind Bars from Blue Underground. Thank you and good night.